You said in education that courage is in short supply. And I don't know,
I think so.
I just did a really deep dive into the history of the Cultural Revolution. And during that period of
Mm.
time, teachers were actually the targets during the Cultural Revolution in the 60s,
Mm.
1960s, 70s in China. And it struck me as how the whole thing was a student-led revolution, and many students were betraying their teachers. They were turning them in. And all these like public struggle sessions for teachers, and the kind of the parallels between that period of time and what's going on now is a little harrowing. I do think we're kind of seeing the authority gradient between teacher and student get diluted a little, and
Mm.
now that what you saw with described with Brett Weinstein and Nicholas Christakis is a bit of a manifestation of that, where the students were yelling at them, "What do you know? What are you telling a
Yeah.
tenured Yale professor? What do you know? This is about creating a home. This is not about education." Like that stuff was like, to me, I see shades of what
Yeah.
happened decades ago, and we're not learning from it, right? And so, you're a history teacher. You teach civics and social studies. Um, and yet in California, we're making it requirements for all these students to take ethnic studies, and it seems like, look, time is finite. We have only a certain number of hours a day, and for every hour not spent teaching real history, um, and math, or something that will help students become good citizens, is is an hour that is robbing these kids of a good chance at life. And I worry about this, what's happening with this lack of especially not teaching history properly, because it does end up, the reason why these wacky ideas seem to take root so easily now is because they're not learning. Like, you made a very good point in that video that we reference, about owning property. You said, because the one of the teachers said that slavery, whiteness was rooted in owning other people as property,
Mm.
right? And you brought up the point. You challenged that. You said, well, this is not white people didn't have a monopoly on owning other people. Like, other people around the world had, all cultures almost had owned other people. And you brought up that point, and then she kind of had to pivot and say, like, well, we're only talking about whiteness here. Like, this is how it manifested here. But I feel like if history was taught properly, right, that this would immediately be something that pops up in students' head, and they would question, like, the moment they are taught this concept of whiteness, or they see the Smithsonian Museum put out concepts of whiteness, they would start questioning, like, what does this mean? Like, I thought we were taught this,
Mm.
right? So how can we go back to that? What is this impediment that seems to be depriving students of being taught real history?
Yeah, there's like a focus. There's a real focus on the right wing side of it, like whatever, like order chaos. That's a Jordan Peterson thing, like the Nazi element, right? Because Nazism isn't worse than like Stalinism or Maoist China. Like, when you talk about like numbers wise or anything like that, but it has like the racist element to it. Um, you know, I don't know. The whole thing is, it's really frustrating that they're not getting it. Here's an interesting like fact. In 1800, there were 195 countries, and maybe it's not exactly accurate. I'm usually like 90% right with my facts. There's some little thing off, but it's something
You
like,
don't need to be. There's Google,
like
so you don't have to be.
yeah. In 1800, I believe there was 195 countries, and slavery was legal in 194. And then now that slavery is legal in like 3 countries, like North Korea and, like, I don't know, Turkmenistan or something like that. So there's something that changed. So to say, like, yeah, like, so I saw a teacher posted something like, "I'm not celebrating the 4th because when it was established, my people weren't free." It's like, I know, like, that it's not good, but everything was bad. And the way I think about this, I'm always thinking through like metaphor for like my students to try and help them understand. It's like to go up to someone and say, you're not a good runner because you used to be able to just crawl. It's like, we were all crawling, man. Like, we evolved. We evolved as a species. Human beings have evolved a lot. to go from like it's fine to own other people to it's not fine to own other people. So why are we holding the standard? I think it's just a myopic view of like that America is somehow unique. We're not unique in our horribleness. We had horribleness, but we're not unique in that. We're unique in being like the country that was established on these Enlightenment principles to bring in that then spread throughout the world. So there's no conflict for me. Like that makes sense. So I talk about a lot of really terrible things in history, and I shock my students about the atrocities of slavery and racist actions and the Black Wall Street and stuff like that, and talk about the thriving communities also. Like you have to talk about both. You have to give the reality that even during segregation, in a lot of ways, Black communities were doing better. So what is that? And the kids are like, well, that's confusing. I liked it when I had a simple understanding of things. I was like, well, sorry, that's not education then. My kids get really, really frustrated. My students get really frustrated because they're like, I knew I was right. And then I left your class and I don't even know what's what anymore. It's like, yeah, well, that's the way it kind of should be. You got to figure it out.